rise today in support of my amendment that would restrict radical gender ideology and pornographic content from entering the libraries and classrooms of school operated by the Department of Defense. These morally corrupting materials have no place in an educational setting and could seriously harm the educational and psychological development of school children belonging to our service members. Radical leftists desire to use schools as a tool to indoctrinate our children as soon as they enter kindergarten. I wish they were all just theoretical, but there exists a litany of examples of inappropriate and pornographic material that is available in DoD schools.
This amendment is an answer to a problem we don't have. It would set a dangerous precedent that politicians can censor a range of school content based on a politician's political ideologies. And it's so broad that it would ban schools from teaching about a range of animals, including, for instance, clownfish, which can change their sex. So no more Finding Nemo in Dodea schools, I guess.
The DoD school system serves over 66,000 children across the world, and we owe it to our service members to provide their children with a top-notch education. That education should include lessons about reading, writing, and arithmetic, not explicit pornography and radical transgender propaganda. I encourage my colleagues to join me in protecting the children entrusted to DoD schools by our men and women in uniform. I reserve the balance of my time.
As Americans, we pride ourselves on freedom. Freedom to receive information and ideas from anyone and anywhere, to think freely, to speak freely. But this amendment is nothing more than a censorship and a violation of our First Amendment rights, all in an effort to erase the existence of transgender and intersex people. This amendment would reinforce the negativity, hostility, discrimination, and misunderstanding that many transgender and intersex youth already experience. In 2021, 68% of all LGBTQ+ students surveyed by GLSEN reported feeling unsafe in their school environment due to their perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. And more than 3/4 of LGBTQ+ students report experiencing in-person verbal harassment based on their sexual orientation, gender expression, or gender at some point in the past year. Here's the fact. Attempts to erase transgender and intersex people from schools will exacerbate these challenges and increase their isolation. But it won't erase the existence of transgender and intersex people, much to some of my colleagues' dismay. Parents across the country want their children to learn in safe and affirming environments. Schools should be focused on creating environments that support all students, including transgender and intersex students, not censoring content. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment. I yield back.
Madam Chair, as the mother of 2 teenage boys in public schools, I understand and can appreciate the need for age-appropriate content to ensure our schools remain nurturing environments for our kids. But the kinds of content that make it into these curricula and classrooms are decisions best left to professional educators working together with parents to determine what is best for our students. And as a mom, it is important our children see themselves and the situations they face in the books they read and the curriculum they are taught. This amendment is yet another attempt to broadly ban entire categories of books, forcing educators to second-guess and censor themselves. Engaging with novel and challenging topics is essential to how kids grow as students and individuals. They need to be able to confront ideas and topics that may not always be comfortable to them. This amendment is simply terrible policy in terms of providing our kids with the education they need to succeed in a complex and rapidly evolving world. Ultimately, at its core, this is discriminatory and offensive amendment in its targeting of our LGBTQ+ people. It separates military children attending Dodea schools, some of whom may identify as LGBTQ+ themselves, from their peers in other school systems in the United States, isolating them and depriving their education of perspectives critical to their own self-identification, growth, and development. This amendment makes it harder for Dodea teachers and counselors to support students with the materials they need if they question their gender identities or sexual orientations. This is an unwelcome intrusion on the trust between students and their teachers and counselors who can play important roles for military children often moving from place to place at formative times in their life. Eliminating the ability for educators to provide resources and guides to help our military youth with complicated decisions and feelings that they have. This is absolutely unacceptable. I have had conversations with young people back at home who shared serious concerns about the impact of censorship of LGBTQ+ content in their schools on the mental health of themselves and their peers. This amendment would further that sense of isolation and lead to increased rates of depression and, tragically, as we have seen, suicidal ideation. This amendment also sends a deeply hurtful and wrong message to LGBTQ plus service members, some of whom may have children attending DODEA schools, about what this Congress and our government thinks about them and their loved ones. This amendment dishonors their service and commitment to our country. We know that the people most hurt by book bans are ultimately students and kids, and this amendment undermines the quality of education and experience that military children receive at our DODEA schools. It is reckless, discriminatory, and it's an attack on our LGBTQ plus students and their service members. As a mom, I think of all of our children who deserve to feel supported and included, seen in our educational system. For these reasons, I strongly urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment. I reserve the balance of my time.